afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Before I introduce Tamsin, I'd like to just go through a few things, if that's okay. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Lauren Oakley. I'm the events coordinator at Staffordshire Chambers. For those of you who haven't used Zoom before, I'll just go through a few things. So, depending on whether you're on a laptop or PC, you'll be able to see two functions. One of these is the Q&A box, and one of these is the chat box. These can be found at either the top or bottom of your screen. If you can see and hear me, if you could just pop something in the chat box, then that would be great, whether it's just a hi, or it just takes a few minutes to come through. Lovely. Hi, Dan. Hi, Ruth. Hi, Craig. Lovely. Hello, Kirsty. Hi, brilliant. Looks like everybody can see and hear us. That's great. Brilliant. I also mentioned that there's a Q&A function. Now, this can be used to ask questions live to Tamsin at the end of the session. If you do have questions throughout, though, please feel free to either put them in the Q&A, or if it's easy for yourself, in the chat box, and we'll have a live Q&A with Tamsin after the presentation at the end. For those of you who haven't used Zoom, we cannot hear or see you. So you can see us and you'll be able to hear us, but whether you're eating or drinking, we can't see anything that you're doing. So for you, that's absolutely great. So I'd like to introduce Tamsin from Legs PR. Tamsin, whenever you're ready, thank you.
Hi, afternoon everybody. Thank you for joining. I wish you couldn't see me, especially with these roots, but we'll try and ignore those. I will apologise in advance. There is a 3-year-old in the house. She's upstairs with a dad and a sister who's 13, and she's been bribed with sweets. So she might not, and I'm really sincerely hoping she doesn't make an appearance. If she does, all I can say is I'm sorry. So I'm quite an informal trainer. So hopefully it won't be death by PowerPoint. Normally I do sort of embed some video and audio so that you're not sick of hearing me, because, you know, an hour of me talking in my Stokey accent might be a little bit too much for you. So this is a sort of shortened version of some of the sessions I deliver. So first of all, I can get my mouse to work. Okay, so just a little bit about me so you know who I am and my background and what I do. So I started out working in newspapers a long time ago, which probably gives my age away because I was only working for £6 a year. So thankfully my mum and dad foot the bill for a lot of things while I lived at home. I freelance at Signal Radio. I read the news for them. I've worked in radio and TV, and then I jumped ship and went into what journalists call the dark side. So I went into PR for a local authority in the NHS, flexi time and better money, to be quite honest. But a lot of crisis management, a lot of PR and media. But I decided that I ideally wanted to work for myself. So I was very lucky enough to have been given the opportunity to take redundancy. And while I was on maternity leave with the mental 3-year-old, I set up Legs PR, and it's now been going 3.5 years. We deliver all kinds of services. We deliver, we've got 2 arms to the business, PR on one side, so that's essentially getting your profile out there, and the training side, and I do a lot of crisis management training, social media training, all that kind of stuff. So enough about me. So today what I'm going to do is take you through on a whistle-stop tour of the various platforms, excluding TikTok because I am too old for that, apparently, according to my 13-year-old, and I don't know much about it, but we may well add that to future sort of presentations. So we'll talk about the various platforms, the main ones: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn, and that's just to give you a little bit of background, although I'm sure a lot of you will know some of this stuff already. We'll spend some time talking about content and what you can post and when, and then what resources and tips there are out there to help you. If you've got any burning questions, if you put them in the chat box, and Lauren will feed them back to me. But there is time for questions at the end. I am pressing the key and not getting anywhere. So lockdown for a lot of us is given us more time to think about working on our businesses, and I've certainly been doing that, a lot of planning and business planning and social media planning. And I think now's the time to think about where you're currently at with your marketing and your social media, and what you think you could probably do better. A lot of people, in my experience with social media, are quite sporadic if they're new to it and don't necessarily have the time or resources to focus on it. A lot of the time, just having a simple monthly plan can really help you focus what's going out and when, because some people do struggle and maybe send out 3 posts one week and then nothing for another couple of months. First thing people will look for when they're looking for a business is probably your website and your social media feeds. If they're looking at you and a competitor, and your competitor's social media is all up to date, you've got stuff going out all the time, yet yours hasn't been updated for 3 months, that can put you on the back foot. So I think now is the time to be doing a lot of planning. There is a lot of social media noise out there, so people are constantly putting stuff out there all the time. Essentially, your job really is to make yourself stand out from the crowd and sort of raise your profile above that of your competitors. And social media can help you do that. So very quickly, the social media platforms, because I'm not going to sort of bore you with, there are lots of stats, but hopefully they will give you an overall feel for each platform and how you can use it. I mean, this stat here just goes to show how much noise there is out there on Facebook. 42% of marketeers, so that's over 4 in 10 of marketeers, say that Facebook is critical to their importance. Meaningful Facebook groups are really, really useful. Some of the sort of hyper-local community groups, you know, if you're a painter or a decorator or an electrician that works, you know, as a private rather than a corporate painter or decorator or electrician, those Facebook groups people will be putting stuff in there. Anybody know a good electrician I can trust? They are really useful to be part of in those kind of industries. If you look at that stat, you know, 80 million small and medium-sized businesses have Facebook pages. So I think if you haven't got one, you're possibly missing a trick. And, you know, 3 in 10 marketeers think Facebook offers the highest digital return on investment. You can, and this is going to the next level really, but some Facebook campaigns, advertising campaigns are really, really cost effective. And for the virtual training sessions that I'm looking to run soon, that's probably one of the marketing tools I'll be using to promote, because you can really drill down to attract the people that you need within your industry. Okay, again, this really just shows to demonstrate how huge sort of Facebook is. Video gets far more engagement than a post that's got no photo, that's just writing. So, you know, and a lot of people, I know I do, when the kids are in bed, I end up watching videos on Facebook with the sound down so I don't wake anybody up, and have the subtitles on. So subtitles are important, and there are pieces of software that you can use to do that. Now, I don't know about you, but during lockdown, Facebook visits, when I looked on my phone at how long I'm on the phone every day, it's actually frightening, and I'm sure I'm on Facebook far more than 20 minutes a day. This is just an example of somebody who uses Facebook really well. So Burberry's a really iconic brand. All of their social media, whether it's Twitter, Instagram or Facebook, are aesthetically very, very consistent. So that even probably without knowing that it's Burberry, by looking at the imagery and the stuff they put on there, you would know that that is Burberry. So they use high quality, classically taken images that fits their brand. So essentially your social media needs to be consistent with your brands. Adobe is very good at, it's very responsive to customer inquiries. They actually use some of the material put together using Adobe so people who buy Adobe and use it to produce stuff, they'll showcase that within their social media. So it's very good at showing how clients have used Adobe and then sharing it. So they get very good engagement. So who has the most Twitter followers? Do you want to have a guess? 118 million plus followers. Do you want to have a go and put it in the chat box just to see if you can have a guess at who is any takers, Lauren? No?
Oh, it just takes a few minutes, Tamsin.
Oh, does it?
Oh, so Stuart says Donald Trump.
Oh, look, I've given it away now. I pressed the button. Sorry, Stuart. No, you weren't. Well, they say you weren't far off. You, in one way, it's poles apart, isn't it, than Donald Trump? But yeah, Barack Obama has got the most. I looked yesterday, and he's got over 118. Since I last did a similar presentation, his followers have increased by loads. Again, with Twitter, a lot of people use Twitter on the mobile. GIFs, more than 100 million tweets a day. People are using those more and more. The half-life of a tweet is 24 minutes. So basically that says, you know, once you put something out on Twitter, it's almost gone straight away. For Twitter, video content gets 10 times more engagement. So if you're using Twitter as a marketing tool, then it's really useful to use video in your posts. Now, I teach journalism at Staffordshire University and sports journalism, and I asked them right at the start of last semester, so September last year when they were first joining uni, how many of them buy newspapers, and it was none. The majority of them get their news from Twitter. So there are a lot of journalists on Twitter who use it to find stories. So if your business is celebrating, I don't know, 25 years in business, and you put it out on Twitter, it might be, or if you tag the right people in, you can get it in front of a journalist and you could get some coverage. This one's quite useful. 40% of users say they've made a purchase because of an influencer's tweet. I think with the younger demographic, I know my daughter, who, you know, nearly 14, heavily into makeup. If she sees someone she really likes and they've got a certain mascara and she sees it on Instagram, I almost know that the next question will be can I get one of these? So if you're marketing a product and you've got someone who can really influence your product, Twitter is the way to go. If you look at that stat as well, going back to what I said earlier, nearly a quarter of verified accounts are taken up by Twitter. For me as a journalist, one of the first things I do when I go into a newsroom is go into the police, the fire, local council's Twitter account to see what they've posted, to see what stories I can put in news bulletins. So it's just thinking about that as well. Again, those with images get more interaction, but just bear in mind, this is frightening, that a day's worth of tweets could fill a 10 million page book. So you are a very, very small part of Twitter when you send something out. Don't forget, reputationally, if in doubt, leave it out. If you are going to put something that you're not sure about and your gut's telling you not to post it, don't post it, because it can come back to haunt you. So this tweet here from Phil Neville was taken from years ago. Some tabloid journalist dug this up from the past, and this got released into the media the same week he was brought in as the England women's coach. Now, he's actually talking about beating her at a game of table tennis, but you can imagine the bad sort of press he got from putting that tweet out. And even though it was years before, it was an ill thought of idea to do that. So just bear in mind that reputationally, you've got to be really careful. Starbucks are very good at social media. It's worth having a look at them. And Amazon as well, you know, they change their headers to reflect the time of year. So I think the Starbucks one there, I'm guessing that was around November, December. Black Friday's obviously November. So at certain times of year, just mix your social media pictures up a bit to make them resonate to whatever season it is. Okay, let's try this again without me hitting the wrong button. Who do you reckon's got the most Instagram followers? Bearing in mind that Instagram is predominantly photograph based.
You want to put it in the chat and then I can read them out to you, Tamsin.
Yeah, I won't. I'll try not to press anything. So I'm gonna press something and hope this doesn't come up. So 200 plus followers, 200 million plus.
Stuart says Jennifer Aniston.
She's up there, I think, but I don't think it's her.
Yvonne says the Kardashians.
Yeah, they're on the list. I'll give you a clue. Footballer. Quite vain, I'd say. Very good on the pitch, not bad looking.
Ronaldo.
Yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo. Good, well done. Okay, so Instagram. Now, because I'm getting on a bit, I get my PR assistant to do my Instagram feed because she understands it far more than I do. So these are just things to think about. Again, going back to what I was saying about my daughter, a lot of people will be looking at products online on the phone and they look at that on Instagram. Funnily enough, Instagram generates 20 times more engagement than LinkedIn. So if you're selling a product, if it's a beauty product or clothes, or maybe you're in the craft industry, Instagram's the way to go. Maybe not so much if you're an electrician. If you're a gardener and you do landscape gardening, then Instagram's fantastic. So what I would say is, just because there are all of these channels, don't feel like you've got to use all of them. You need to use those social media platforms that are right for you. Okay, these are just some other things to bear in mind. So the hashtags there. So, you know, going back to Burberry, that hashtag will trend because of the iconic brand that it is. Okay, again, because funnily enough, differently than Twitter, Instagram photographs generate more engagement than video. But if you look at that, nearly 7 out of 10 posts feature products on Instagram. So it is a very good shop front. Okay, so LinkedIn. I'm rattling through this because I want to get to the tips and content to help you. This is really background. So again, with LinkedIn, if you're business to business, I think it's, you know, one of the key ones that you should do. I use LinkedIn very much to raise the profile of what Legs PR does. There are very specific targeted LinkedIn courses that you can go on, and I have a couple of businesses that I work with that deliver LinkedIn training, because there are some real tips and techniques. For LinkedIn, essentially, and the specific LinkedIn courses will go into far more detail on this, but very simplistically, the more likes and comments and shares you get within the first hour on LinkedIn, the wider it gets shared. So the key to LinkedIn is putting content out there that will get engagement. Obviously, far different to Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. You can input far more detail. Okay. So I think the thing with LinkedIn is as well, you can specifically target companies and people. So I took a list of the people who were on the webinar now. I can now, you know, I won't be stalking you, I promise, but it may well be that you get an invite from me later because I will be able to find you on LinkedIn. So it gives you the opportunity to target people that you probably wouldn't be able to do through some of the other mediums. So if you want to, say you want to work with a company called Jumar Recruitment, who are based in Birmingham, you can search Jumar and then you can find the people that you want to link up with. So if you're an asbestos or Legionella company, you can target health and safety people on LinkedIn to get in front of the clients that you want to access. Some of the other social media platforms are more about looking for the business rather than the individual. LinkedIn gives you the opportunity to target individuals, which I think is very, very useful. What we do, I'm a member of a networking group called BNI. Carla Gary is a very successful caterer based in Derbyshire. What we tend to do, if we see something in our BNI group where somebody's asking for a business, our BNI people can go in and recommend someone within our group. So we know that they're looking for a cleaning company. We've got a cleaning company in our group who's got a great reputation. So we can all jump on that LinkedIn post and recommend that person. So it just helps boost your profile. So that's worth thinking about. So I've spent the last 23 minutes waffling on about stats and figures and all that kind of stuff, which I know you won't remember. But what do all these stats mean? Well, hopefully they're giving you some sort of ideas of what content gets the most engagement. So photos and videos, and kind of just say gold star to Paul, who's on the webinar. He's just sent me a LinkedIn request, so you get a gold star, Paul. Basically, what you have to remember is all about you and your business, and it's about your customers and your brand. It is not about talking to everybody. It's about talking to the right people for you. So do you need every channel? Probably not. Some businesses will, some businesses won't. So it's about using those platforms that you feel are right for you. Okay, so I think from this point, it's important to think about planning. What mediums are you going to use, or do you use already? And what are you going to post? People struggle with what to post. And one of the first webinars around for the Chamber at the start of lockdown was about communicating through the crisis. There is so much noise out there. My advice really was, if you've got nothing useful to say, don't say it. Don't put something out just for the sake of it. It needs to be engaging content. So potential clients need or want to engage with it. They want to read something that's informative or educationally, or even entertaining sometimes. You need to think about, when you're planning your content, what your tone is. What's your tone of voice? Keep your personality. Sort of stay true to your brand. And it is very much quality over quantity. Like I said with Twitter, you send something out, 20 minutes, it will have disappeared. You don't have to keep sending stuff out. It's got to be the right message for you and your business. So have a look at what your competitors are doing. Look at, when you send stuff out, what are the posts that get the most engagement? What are the ones that get shared the most or get the most comments on? But don't be afraid to have fun. Obviously, you've got to be professional, but there's nothing to stop you showing a bit of your personality as well. I don't think now, well, sales trainers may well disagree, but I know that if someone approaches me on LinkedIn and then hits me with a sales message straight away, I just turn off. Now, that might be an individual thing, but for me, for my business anyway, selling at the moment isn't the right thing, and I don't really do that anyway. You've got to be engaging, be responsive. So if someone, genuinely is interested in working with you, get in contact with them. Try and be memorable, stand out from the crowd. And that's the same really with any marketing and PR. But it does take time, it does take resource, and you do have to be patient. I think it's about changing your shop window. So going back to Starbucks or Amazon, who change their sort of headers. Google are very good at it. They do it all the time. If you go into the Google search engine, Halloween, it's different than it would be at the beginning of spring. Don't keep it the same all the way through. Mix it up a bit, change your profile picture, change your biog. Now's the time to change it, actually, in response to COVID. I've seen quite a few people on LinkedIn changing what they're calling themselves. If you're saying, we are the best Staffordshire accountancy business, fine, but how do you quantify that? how are you going to help your client? How do you sort of solve someone's pain? An accountancy firm could change their bio to, you know, helping our clients through the COVID crisis to make it resonate more with the people who are buying off them. There are some real tricks of the trade that you can use. Now, this is, if you just Google sort of awareness days or awareness months, this will be one of the first things that comes up. I use it to help shape my monthly social media calendar. There are days for every day of the month. So you might have National Badger Awareness Week or National Cheese and Tomato Pizza Day. A lot of them will be completely irrelevant to you and your business. There will be some that are relevant. If you're a caterer, National Picnic Month is, you know, going to resonate. So you can use this to help populate your social media calendar with awareness days that fit your business, and you can use it as a hook. So it was National Learning at Work Week last month sometime. So I got my PR assistant to write a blog on what she's learned working with me so far, and we posted that out. So you can use stuff like that as a hook. Okay, so Pixabay is a royalty-free, free-to-use library of photos that you can use. That's another really useful one, because you can't be using pictures that, you know, have got royalties attached to them without either paying the royalty or crediting the person. What you're going to think is, with your social media, it's a bit like a TV show, and with the adverts in between. If you send something out, selling, if I was watching adverts all day on Central or ITV, I'd just turn off. So you need to mix your social media posts up. So got a bit of entertainment, bit of education, something informative with a bit of selling in between. So you need to try and balance that up. Okay, this is really useful. So syndicated content is content that's not yours, that it might be relevant to your industry. So I've got a couple of architects who are clients. So it may well be that it might be quiet from, you know, for posts from the actual company I'm working with, but there might be some change in planning legislation, or there might be a big news story about architecture. News now allows you to search for anything, whether you're a funeral director, painter or decorator, whether you make, I don't know, teddy bears, there will be stuff on there. It's essentially a huge database of news stories that you can share content about if you want to. Okay, these are just some other ones. I don't know if you want to make a note of these. Top hashtags helps you search for the hashtags that are trending, so you can put those on your posts. Awareness days is the one I mentioned. Red website design is about websites, but there's some useful content on there for you to look at. Social media today gives you a lot of updates on social media, because obviously algorithms and social media platforms are changing all the time, so they're quite useful. Where are we now? So one of the things I would do, certainly on a quarterly basis, is plan your social media content. So you could do it from today. Have a look at what you've got coming up. Have you got any milestones? Are you celebrating a certain year in business? My PR assistant was 21 a couple of weeks ago, so we put a post out about that. Have you got any company news? Are you going to get something in the media that you could share a link on? Are you planning any blogs or newsletters that you could share a link on? What seasonal stuff have you got on? What events? I mean, it may not be face-to-face events, but you might be running your own webinars. Think about video content. People won't want to watch a 15-minute documentary on your company. It needs to be quick. You know yourselves from scrolling social media that 1 minute you can be looking at a skateboarding cat in Russia, the next you're reading about Donald Trump's latest faux pas. So video content needs to be quick. Getting subtitles on is good. Make sure it's shot okay, so there's nothing in the background that's distracting people. Testimonials are also really good to share. like anyone, if you're looking to book a holiday next year, the first thing you're probably going to do is go on TripAdvisor. And so what I tend to do with testimonials is I've got video testimonials on my website, but then sometimes what I'll also do is I'll get Charlotte, who works with me, to put up a graphic with just a bit of a quote, and then I'll put that on LinkedIn, I'll put it on Twitter. People tend to buy off people when they know they've got a good reputation. So the more you can shout about your reputation on social media, really, the better, as long as you're balancing it with all those other posts. It's also important to remember that your social media is only part of your marketing and PR strategy. There is still a place for traditional marketing. There is still a place for brochures and newsletters and paid for advertising. You know, media coverage, trade fairs, obviously they're not going to be happening until next year, I wouldn't have thought now. Getting yourself in whatever, you know, if you work in education or you work in healthcare, targeting those trade press, and obviously PR as well. All this stuff fits together. So your social media part is all part of the much bigger picture. If you think about traditional marketing, for example, if your sort of client base is an older client who is likely to want your services but isn't on Instagram, they are likely to go to the doctors quite often. So could you put your, you know, the fact that you're a gardener, could you put a flyer on the wall in the doctor's surgery? What you have to think about with your PR and marketing is targeting where your clients go to for their information. If they're not on Instagram, there's no point in putting stuff on Instagram. What you need to do is, when you're doing all this, measure it. So have a look at what gets the traction. You're not going to get results straight away. I think a lot of the time with social media, it's there to boost your profile and get your company out there. I think targeted social media adverts are a real way of getting a return on your investment. So going back to those courses I'm going to deliver in July, Facebook advertising will help me do that, and it's very cost effective to get the results I need. Putting something up in the doctor's surgery isn't going to work for me. So it's very much looking at all this stuff and spending some time working out what's going to work for you and when, but you do have to sort of dedicate some time to putting it together. Okay, I have whistled through that, and I know there's 25, it's 25 to, but I do like to leave some time for questions at the end, because I know I've gone through it very quickly. Those are my details. I am obviously on social media, and if you need to speak to me aside of this, then please just get in touch. I know I went very quickly, but I wanted to try and get through it all. So if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to ask.
Great, thanks Tamsin. That was really, really interesting and really.
Sorry about the 3-year-old. I knew she'd do that. I am sorry, but I am human, so there we go.
Don't be silly. It's absolutely fine. If anybody's got any questions, if you could pop them in the Q&A function, either at the top or bottom of your screen, or if it's easy for yourself, just pop them in the chat box for me, please. They do normally take a few minutes to come through them.
Maybe everybody's gone to sleep and I've bored everybody to death.
I don't think so at all. Oh, here we go. Oh, Christy says, I don't have any questions, but thank you for the content. This has been really helpful to focus on the things and think about when planning. Brilliant. Thank you, Christy. That's great.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it and you're not asleep. That's good.
One awake. There you go.
Yeah, that's good.
If anybody else has got any more questions for Tamsin, we have got a few minutes before the end, so please do feel free to ask Tamsin while she's here. Oh, we've got a question.
Don't be shy.
So Daniel says, on LinkedIn, I always struggle with the relationship between my company page and personal page. Do you have any advice?
Do you know, it's funny because a lot of people ask that. It depends really how big your company is, I think. a lot of people find it, certainly, say you're at the start of your sort of business journey and you've got a company page and your individual page, people find a lot of the time that they're sharing the same content. I think the best way to start is posting everything on your personal page to start with, because it is easier to engage with people on your personal page. I think on the company page, you're relying on people looking for you and finding your company page. So I think I'd focus, and this is only my opinion, or the LinkedIn specialists might disagree with me, but I can only talk from my experience. I don't have a business page because the business is me essentially, and I just think I'd be posting a lot of the same stuff. So for me, I'd be focusing on my individual page, I think. But without knowing your business, Daniel, it's sort of difficult to go into any more detail. But for me, I'd be focusing on my individual one.
We've just had somebody say more or less the same thing. Tamsin Yvonne said, great stuff, Tamsin. I know some businesses don't have a business page, so like you've just said, they use their own individual.
Yeah, I don't think you need to have one. I don't think you've got to have one. I think, I mean, I'll get as I get bigger, I'll probably get a business page, but for now, I don't think I need one. So what I would say is, don't feel under pressure to have a business page. I think if you're building a business, I would start with you first.
Lovely, thank you. So Daniel, referring back to the first question when you said you don't know what Daniel does. So Daniel said, that's fine, it's a conference centre, but it doesn't really have many followers and it's hard to interact from the business page.
Yeah, that's why then I'd concentrate, Daniel, on doing yours to start with. I think there's only any point in having a business page once you're bigger, I would say. It is far easier to engage with an individual page than it is a business page. So don't feel pressured to have one. I think as you get bigger, when you've got more, you're having more traction on your individual page, then I'd start moving forward with that.
Lovely.
But there are some, there are dedicated LinkedIn courses that go into all this in a lot more detail. I'm very much only skirting around the edges really, because I'm not an expert on LinkedIn. I know quite a bit about it, but not to any great, certainly not an expert, I would say.
Daniel says, thank you, that's great advice, Tamsin. Don't think we've got any more questions, so I'd like to thank you again, Tamsin, for today, and just remind people, for those who want to watch Tamsin's presentation again, or if you've missed the start of it, or any other webinars which we've delivered, these can be found on our website, on our webinar library. I'd like to thank as well all the attendees today, and thanks for your participation through the chat and through your questions. We hope to see Tamsin and all the delegates that have attended in the near future very soon at the Chamber, and also on some more webinars. So thanks everybody, and we hope to see you soon.
Thanks ever such a lot. Thanks for coming.